Hey everyone, welcome back in. Brand new episode of the Cherry Heat Check for you today, Monday, March 9th. I'm Ricky Thompson to take you through this Lobos basketball podcast. As we know, Lobos go down in Logan over the weekend in their final Mountain West game of the season, 94-90, as the Aggies just poured it on in the early minutes of the second half, nailing three after three, led by MJ Collins. Hot shooting, defensive effort of the whole Aggie team on the Lobos, and Jake Hall's monumental effort falls short as the Lobos now will sit in the 3 seed in the Mountain West tournament this coming week. Lobos will play on Thursday, March 12th, the final game of the evening out there in Vegas. That will take place at 8:30 p.m. Pacific. Guess that will be 9:30 p.m. Mountain for you Albuquerque folks. So with that loss, we now see the Lobos will face the winner of Boise State and San Jose State. Of course, they lost to the Broncos in their 2 chances this year, and they defeated San Jose State in their chances against the Tim Miles squad. If the Lobos were to advance, we can see here they would probably face either San Diego State or Colorado State in that semifinal matchup, and that would be 9 p.m. on Friday, the 13th. So with that win, of course, Utah State clinches the regular season title in their final season in the conference, as they will move on to the Pac-12 next year. Would expect Mason Falslev to win Conference Player of the Year, Carson Templin to win Sixth Man of the Year, and MJ Collins to either be first or second team all conference. So congratulations to Coach Calhoun, who I got to meet last year. Also got to meet Drake Allen, who was a great guy. But this sickens me to see Utah State win in that fashion over the Lobos. Probably even hurts me more than seeing San Diego State for some reason, probably just because I can't stand the Utah State fans out there, but that's a story for another day. Lobos in this game, Jake Hall's 32 points really propelling them to stay in it. 48% shooting on the game for New Mexico compared to 50% for Utah State. Both teams knocking down double-digit three-pointers in this game. Lobos connecting on 13 of 29. The real difference came at the free throw line, where the Aggies made 30 of 36 of their attempts, while the Lobos went 19 for 26. So the Lobos not even attempting as many free throws as the Aggies made in this one. Turnover battle was about even at 8 for the Lobos, 10 for the Aggies, and believe it or not, the Lobos actually won the rebounding battle in this game, mostly because Tomislav Bojan leading the way again with his 13 rebounds. But New Mexico not really able to create enough turnovers to overcome the lack of scoring they were getting in the half-court offense, only getting 10 points off of those 8 turnovers they caused. Dayton Albury throughout the game applying a high amount of pressure to the ball handlers like Drake Allen, Elijah Perryman of the Aggies. But Coach Olin spoke about that ball pressure in his press conference today, where Nick Nunez of the Pit Press asked him what the fine line is really between Albury fouling and pressuring, and he just mentioned it's kind of a give and take. And in that game, I think Albury too aggressive almost the entire game, not giving the defender any room to even come down at times, and of course ultimately fouling out, and he playing terrible basketball, finishing with 4 points in his 20 minutes, 2 steals. but his 2 performances against his prior team in Utah State, not what we would expect, especially after he had a fantastic game this prior game against Colorado State where he's wearing the sunglasses, but Aubrey's defense out of control and was actually more detrimental than beneficial in this game. Jake Hall's stat line incredible, 7 for 17 from deep, where he had to continue to hoist him just to keep him in the game. I think he did end up missing his final 7 shots, though, in that game over the final 12 to 10 minutes, finishing also with 4 assists and 3 rebounds. Fantastic season for Hall, and I'll talk a little bit about what he's accomplished this year at the end of the show here. Luke hopped 4 points for him, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 turnovers for Luke. Not his best game on offense where they needed some additional scoring. Antonio Chol again, low minutes after only playing 12 minutes against Colorado State, finishing with 11 minutes in this game, shooting 1 shot, no other statistics to come by. But his defense of Chol is just as bad as his offense, unfortunately. When he came back in for his second stint in the first half, he gave up the pick and roll 2 straight times where he switched too easily. Then the big man was able to go down low and post up the guard of the Lobos. He lost his man in transition the next time down the court for a 3-pointer in the corner, and then he was pulled out of the game. So there was 3 to 4 straight defensive possessions where Chol gave up plays that ultimately led to points. You can see why his minutes are going to continue to probably be 10 to 15 the rest of the way here because his defense and his shooting numbers have just been terrible. And I'll get a little bit into his shooting over the last 5 games here in a couple minutes. On the bench, though, big minutes from the boys, 16 points for Tajavis Miller, bouncing back big after a bad game against CSU. He went 5 of 6 from deep in this game to keep New Mexico hanging around. Uriah Tenet, 14 points for Uriah, 2 rebounds and 7 assists, one of his better games in a long time as we see his minutes go up, 28 minutes in the game, and impressive play for the freshman. JT Rock getting 19 minutes, finding himself actually on the court with Tomislav Boljan for, I think, the longest stretch that we've seen this season, and it actually didn't look too bad when you compare it to the minutes that Chol is putting out there right now. JT Rock in this game, 9 points, 4 of 8 from the field, and finishing with 2 rebounds as well for the Rock. So good game from the New Mexico bench. Starters, on the other hand, really letting the team down in a lot of categories. Leading the way for the Aggies, as I mentioned, MJ Collins knocking down 3-pointers in the second half. They all seem to come very timely, opening minutes of the second half and then down the stretch where he uses that pump fake step to the side to get open. Falslev, who will probably be named Conference Player of the Year today, finishing with 15 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, going 4 of 5 from the line and 1 of 1 from deep as well. Drake Allen, senior leader, 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. I think he probably turned out to be the best point guard in the conference, unless I'm forgetting someone. His defense, ball control with Albury, just in his guts all night. Really like Drake Allen's game, so congrats to that young man. Carson Templin, 15 points, 5 rebounds, knocked down 2 3-pointers. The Lobos actually got him, I think, to shoot more 3-pointers than they would want, going 2 of 4, but he cashing in on those looks. Looking closer at Antonio Chol's shooting the past 5 games, where he's averaged 19 minutes. He's only scored 15 points over those 5 games for 3 points per game, shooting 22% from the field, 21% from deep, and only collecting 5 rebounds over that stretch. And Coach Olin was asked about Chol directly today by Jeff Grammer in their press conference. And I know Olin doesn't want to directly call out his own players and kind of had a coach speak answer of saying on any night it can be Chol's night, meaning he's just been shooting the ball well and that the games really dictate who the coaches are going to play. But if you look at the statistics, not just over the last 5 games, but all of conference play, they have steadily declined. And you can talk about that Air Force game where he scored 21 points. That game doesn't count in my mind because he's basically playing against the same level of player at Air Force that he was at the junior college ranks. And I don't really want to just rip him a new one here, but we can just see that the game is not being processed at a fast enough speed. And at this point, he's hurting the team more than helping, unfortunately. Hopefully, he can start to knock down some shots again to at least contribute on offense. I think that's something that could still happen. With the Mountain West season wrapped up now, just wanted to look at the scoring and rebounding leaders for the conference. Dre Gibbs Lawhorn of UNLV finishing with over 23 points per game, followed by Colby Garland of San Jose State at 21. Jake Hall of New Mexico finished in 5th place with over 17 points per game for the freshman. And on the rebounding side, Tomislav Bojan led the conference in total rebounds and offensive rebounds, averaging almost 11 rebounds per game. He did miss one conference game with an injury. I can't remember who that was against. But looking at the 3-point leaders in the conference, this is just for conference play here. Dre Gibbs Lawhorn did lead the league with 72 overall, followed by Jake Hall of New Mexico at 66. Both players averaging over 3 makes per game, and I think both shot over 43% from deep. So those two guys just really lighting it up from deep. Jake Hall finishing, though, with 99 total three-pointers on the season, which was more than Lawhorn for the total on the season. But looking at Lobo three-point history, Jake Hall now only sitting 7 three-pointers behind Anthony Mathis, who had 106 in the 2018-19 season. Jake Hall now with 99 so far. I'll have to look up how many games Anthony Mathis had, but we know for sure he had one conference tournament game. So Jake Hall would need to make 7 in that second round Mountain West game to tie. I'm expecting the Lobos will play in some type of postseason tournament as well, whether it be the NCAA, NIT, or New Crown tournament. So I do foresee Jake Hall breaking this record of 106. I will check back with you on how many games Anthony Mathis had when he had 106. But further looking at Jake Hall in this incredible freshman season, the best scoring season a freshman has had in Lobo history, outscoring the likes of Kenny Thomas when Kenny Thomas had a phenomenal year his freshman year. And looking back, comparing the two of KT and Jake Hall, Kenny Thomas winning WAC Freshman of the Year his freshman year, but also won the WAC Tournament MVP, which is incredible. He averaged 14.7 points per game that year, almost 8 rebounds, 1.5 blocks, 1.5 assists, and shot 58% from the field. Jake Hall comes in so far 16 points per game, 3 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 48% from the field, and 44% from deep on those 99 makes. tough call to say who is really the greatest freshman of all time. I didn't think that Chol would come close to touching this record when we began the year. About midway through, you could see he was going to come close to some of these. He's coming close to an all-time three-point record, completed the freshman scoring record. Fantastic, fantastic season for Hall. And I think we could say his season does compare with that of Kenny Thomas, and a lot may be added to that if the Lobos can put together 3 wins this week in Vegas. So a lot to look forward still for Hall, but one of the most, if not the most memorable in freshman history for a Lobo. A lot to still look forward to this week in Vegas. If you want to see a full conference tournament preview, you can check out the Big Mountain podcast where I went on with a gentleman named JY to preview the entire conference, all the games of the tournament one by one, and who we see advancing there. You guys might not like the answers I gave, but I tried to be honest and not just a Lobo homer. So check out the Big Mountain podcast for a preview of that. Thank you guys for joining in here all season. I will probably check in with you after the Lobos tournament game. So I hope everyone makes it out to Vegas safely, enjoys the game, all the other games, and has a good week out there. And I thank you again for tuning in. I will check you out on the next one.